Welcome to my second video on ITX cases. This time I'm showing a full frameless ITX case that has 0 exterior bolts. It is available in 3 versions and all of the files you need are in Printables. For this case, I've used my favorite PLA carbon fiber. I do recommend ASA though, especially with the thermal that's going on in there. And it took about 27 hours of printing. For the interior specifications, it's nothing too fancy, just a proof of concept. The case has around 7 liters of volume and can support a 2-slot, low-profile GPU and as well 2 SSDs on the front. And the dimensions of the case are 27 by 27 by 10 centimeters. So for the versions, there are 3 main versions of the case. The first one is void black acrylic, basically for acrylic black plates, woody, using 4 dark oak panels, and brushed, which is basically the same but 3D printed with screws. During the CAD design, this was the basic premise. The fan of the CPU cooler had to be in the middle. The whole idea of this was that all the subwoofers had its air and sound intake through a hole on the side or in the front, and this gave me this idea of centering the whole motherboard towards the actual CPU intake. And during this whole CAD process, which I basically rotated the motherboard, thought of how the GPU would fit, the fans, basically everything, but keeping that CPU intake in the middle so the fan is exposed. And during this process, I did take a bit more time to far more carefully plan on what I was changing, so there would be less reprints and more actual production stuff. But each time I assembled the whole case, I went back and forth and made really small iterations across the board each time, leading to West-laced printed parts. After a quick cam check, seeing everything is good, let's divulge in what parts do you actually need for this thing. So to start off, we have the CPU fan funnel, accompanied with the upper and lower bracket, that are just basically a mirror of each other and go like this. Secondly, we have the frame bracket that is used with the I/O shield of the motherboard, and the 3 other frame brackets that hold everything centered alongside with the glass. Then we have the usual motherboard holder with a bunch of support holes, then the flex PSU brackets, they go basically in 2 pieces, the double-sided GPU bracket, and lastly 4 SSD holders, which I'm missing one here. Now comes the fun part, adding all of the heated inserts into the right place. Starting with the motherboard, we have a bunch of them, not just for the motherboard, but for the flex PSU as well. I'm just double checking here that all of it's aligned, especially for the motherboard. Now for the top and bottom bracket, which hold the whole frame together, we have just a few of them. The one in the middle is for the GPU bracket, and for the sides, we use them later on to connect the actual frame brackets to one another. One thing to mention that is really important for this one, for the frame brackets that are the upper and lower one, I'm using very short ones, 3mm ones, because the whole thickness of the brackets are around 5. We don't want that extrusion of heat or the insert to push the plastic out. Next up is the PSU flex bracket. I'm carefully putting heated inserts as well, you don't want this thing to break. After that is done, this allows us to finally start assembling the whole frame, which begins with me just cleaning a few holes that were printed with external bridging. And this allows us to cleanly connect the motherboard holder to the upper and lower bracket. One note though, be wary of orientation between the motherboard holder and the top and bottom panels, because if you flip it like me here, the motherboard will be facing the wrong way. We'll be fixing that error later on when I actually notice it. But let's continue by putting the large I/O shield bracket onto the frame. After this, we're just adding the 3 remaining brackets of the case, so everything is really nice and snug. Why I'm doing in this order is because if we connect the upper and lower bracket with the motherboard holder first, we basically save us from having skew in our frame. After connecting all of the frame brackets to the actual frame, the frame essentially by itself, we can call it done. And this leaves us to go on to the PSU, which in my case is designed for flex PSU. We do that by connecting 3 screws to the PSU onto the bracket, that is the smaller one, and then the smaller one connects to the larger bracket that holds the whole thing afloat. Now I'm basically connecting the hex standoffs for the motherboard. This allows us to attach the PSU now, and as well the key part here is to make sure the IO shield is now put in, because later on it will be really difficult to put it without actually removing the whole motherboard. And we will attach the motherboard by simply attaching 4 regular motherboard screws. I did forget at this point that I didn't put heated inserts into the GPU bracket. And with this done, the whole exterior shell and the interiors of the case are basically done. Which leaves us with just needing to add all the side panels. But as I've mentioned before, I've laser cut for this case, but there is a version that is fully 3D printed. Here I'm just attaching the GPU bracket that will soon hold our RTX 3050 low profile. Now that the case has been assembled in full, we can check up on our laser. I'm giving a moment for you to enjoy the sweet sound.
But before we finish, I made a big mistake with this, as I have not drilled the magnet holes prior to this, which made the scratching later.
Just me doing a test fit, making sure it actually goes in. Another quick test, but now with the CPU inlet. Next up on the list are the front and back panels, which I have to laser cut as well. This is me just lasering and preparing the front part, and while I did the test fitting, I made a big error. You know that IO shield I mentioned? Well, I forgot on mine to print the actual magnet holes, which of course meant removing everything from the inside just to get it replaced. Well, after we remedied all of that, we can finally start putting the magnets. The magnet approach that worked this time but didn't work last time is that I made sure that the holes had that little spacer inside so the glue can actually stick. The hole is just slightly larger and I let it bond for quite some time. Now we can prepare for the back panel, which again, dimensionally is the same as the front, but requires hole access for the power button and a hole access for the whole IO shield. For all of the cut panels, I made sure to add small circular markings that will help me guide where to drill for the magnets on the panels. At this point, since the magnets dried on one side, I'm not putting the magnets on the other side. Now that we're letting that dry, we're at the stage where we have to drill the holes for the actual magnets on the panels. The key here thing is I used very small magnets and I really took my time to slowly drill out the holes, not to pierce on the other side. Before I started putting magnets, I made sure that the hole that I drilled was sufficient for the actual magnet to fit, and using the same technique of adding vinyl superglue, I've added them slowly to each hole, making sure the polarity was at the correct side. Trying out this first magnet seemed to do the trick. After it cured for proper time, it was time to do a proper fit check, which worked out wonderfully. After I made sure that the new panel fits perfectly. I did the same as with the back and front, just drilling out magnets and placing them. I did the same for the right panel, not knowing about these scratches, but you've seen them at the start. As always, the autofocus worked perfectly, so this was a great shot, but at least you got to hear that sweet sound of peeling effect. Finally, after all of the panels and magnets, the dirty work is done. We go to cabling, which sadly I did forget to put zip tie mounts, but the cables are very short, so I didn't mind. And as you saw, I put 4 padded circular things, which now leaves us of soldering the power button. It is the same type I used before. And finally putting it to the power button on the motherboard socket. And for the finale, I've just cleaned it once more, and it's now ready to test will it even run. Putting the makeshift tablet aside, it definitely works. And that's basically it. Hope you liked this video. Hope you enjoy it. And I'll see you on my next project.